today.
Yeah, right? This is North Carolina weather, right?
Yeah,
in the
really.
winter. Chamber of Commerce is probably less than thrilled with us for saying that.
Yeah.
But maybe
It's the South's tastiest, most drenched city.
Right, yeah. Well, we're going to talk about the city and what's going on around here. So the weather is one of those things. But this is my buddy Chris Vitiello. He and I are sitting outside of Scratch Bakery, which is another spot we love in downtown Durham.
Yep. Scratch is the best.
Yeah, we've got our coffee. Josh Hart's got his rain gear and his gray socks hat on. He's hanging in there. We are talking about maybe walking around the block here because there's so many developments happening. We were sitting across from City Hall and its scaffolding. The buildings behind Pompieri Pizza and Dos Perros with the new copper awning over there that looks so pretty.
Is the copper awning a bit ostentatious? It is.
I
mean,
wonder.
it's kind of patina, but...
Yeah, I wonder what they're
really
doing. City Hall looks so bad. I mean, we defended the police station as our fun RoboCop. We love what the police station looks like. Save that Art Deco. City Hall, probably from the same era, much less good looking. Like, just really a prison across the way there. And I don't know, compared to that copper awning, I think it looks ridiculously out of context, sort of, is my...
well, especially with the Verizon building next to it also being that sort of... late 60s, early 70s crap architecture. It's like we paid for the bricks. Why should we pay for design?
Right, exactly. It looks like we were emulating the Soviet bloc there, and I think that's pretty symbolic with that Verizon building because I believe it's like filled with wires and transmitters and controls our 3G in the area. They have it quite protected, and it does get usage, but it's certainly not open to the public kind of thing. I walk through that parking lot all the time, and I mean, who knows what's getting powered out of there or run through our telephone lines, but it seems quite crucial.
Just in terms of the array of architecture right here, it is kind of crazy because you have the Trinity Church behind it, right? Which originally didn't have that spire on it, actually. That spire was an addition over time. Which might be, like the highest spire in Durham, for all I know.
It's certainly a signature, and right inside the loop.
Yeah, and then you have this sort of European, bell tower.
That's an old firehouse. That's what that was. That building, Pompieri Pizza, that was the fire bell, tower, ding, 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 in the main firehouse.
Okay.
So here we are. We're in the center of the city. We're looking around at all these things that are going to happen, and we want to talk about... some of the stuff that is happening around the block on Parish Street, on Main Street, up on the Green Wall, and all of that whatnot. And I guess Josh is going to let us walk around for a bit and do that.
So we're at a point where this week the city center developers and the Historic Preservation Committee have just had sort of a quickie meeting wherein the committee gave them permission. Historic Preservation Commission, right? Am I saying committee? Okay, committee, not commission. Gave them permission to not retain the historic facades of Parish Street for their skyscraper development because they wouldn't survive the construction. Apparently, like I read, they would need to drill thousands of holes in the brick and then reinforce it from behind in some certain way that would require them to essentially shut down Parish Street with some type of scaffolding for over a year.
Yeah, that's the argument that they made to the historic preservation folks, is that, and it's actually, I think it's the Main Street side, because we had already heard originally...
Okay, so not these guys,
these guys on Parish Street were going to be destroyed either way.
Okay.
But
we're going to lose those.
The three facades on Main Street across from the Pinhook over there, and the Marvell building, which now has Global Breath Yoga on the third floor and whatnot.
Okay, yeah.
Those three, it's exactly what you were saying. They were going to retain those facades, and then they told the historic preservation folks that it would be 2 years of street closures, and they'd have to drill thousands of tiny holes, and it just wouldn't be possible. So now they have permission to demolish not only the Green Wall, which we knew Matthew Kern and the painting was going to get demolished all along, and that was going to be taken down, and these two Parish Street buildings, but now all three of the Main Street buildings as well. And they're supposed to rebuild them with as many of the original materials as they can retain, and as much in the historical facade as possible.
And so the proper question to ask at this moment is, no effing duh, right? I mean, anybody who's walked by there, you look up at the facade and say, this this doesn't look viable, you know? And how could they have gotten this far in all the conversation, in all the development, in that agreement, and now say, oh, we'll have to tear all this down actually because it looks shaky too. I mean, doesn't it seem like a story, just a total lie?
It just seems like one of those things. Josh is from Chicago, you know. It just seems like one of those things where the game is up, like exactly like you're saying. No kidding, you know. Like, why was there no debate? Because there was no debate. Like, they knew all along that those buildings, or they had to presume all along that those buildings weren't staying. You know, if you look at the conceptual drawing of what's supposed to happen with the 20, however many story building that's going here, as you said, we keep hearing more stories all the time.
Yeah.
The intention is not for that building to be historical. It's going to be a lot of things. It's going to be dramatic. It's going to be possibly important to the economy. It's going to be expensive. It's going to have 50,000 square feet of Duke rental footage in it, which guaranteed the deal. It's a Duke alumni out of Aspen, Colorado, who's building it. For whatever it's going to be, it's not going to be historical. It's not going to be in character, and they're going to tear down these buildings. You know, I mean, at least as we said, the 21C people here with the Hill building.
Yeah, the Hill building looks.
I mean, the Hill building.
They're preserving the great architecture of it.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't know the story behind it for our viewers, I don't know if you know, Josh, but it's actually part of a scale model of the Empire State Building. It's the same architecture guy, and if you look at parts of it, you can see that Empire State Building sort of struts where, like, King Kong would have been climbing, on those little landings there. And this was a test building.
Spire on top of this one.
Right, yeah, this was a test building he built before this. And I wonder if you look actually up, you see all those little struts they're putting down on the very top floor? If they're going to do some kind of uplighting on the roof of this building, like,
I don't know.
Could be some really dramatic stuff the way the top of the Empire State Building was lit. I mean,
It even has the same kind of deco metalwork around, and just like the Empire State Building, it has this very tiny claustrophobic black marble lobby with kind of Empire State Building lobby details. I mean, if you've ever been in that building's lobby, it's like so tiny, you know?
It's unbelievable how small the Empire State Building lobby is and how tight everything feels. I think people have seen it in the movies, you know, with all that black marble, but I don't know if, like, you really realize from the movies how small it feels. And even that, when it was the SunTrust, you could go in there was an ATM machine inside that building.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
I guess what we're going for is some of these buildings, the historic character is being preserved. Like, you can see the guys in the window looking out of the 21C.
They're trying to decide if they're allowed to wave at us.
Yeah, right.
Well, you know, my point is that the developers have the city by the balls, because we have developers here who are obviously buying the area and saying, we'll preserve the historic facades. Knowing full well that once they get their whole project rolling, there's no way to get in the way of that, because it's the momentum of development, and so that later they can easily say, we can get rid of these, we have to get rid of these facades we just discovered. And it's the same thing down at the Liberty Warehouse project with East West, you know, where they were like, we can preserve the foundry here, we'll preserve this wall, and then when they got in the middle of it, they started making noise, and I don't know with a resolution on that, but they started making noise about, maybe we can't preserve this, you know, people can't be in the foundry because we can't guarantee your safety, even though we did earlier. This was only after they got their actual destruction of the warehouse well underway, you know. It's the developers, once they kind of stick the shovel in the ground, it's carte blanche.
Yeah, it's amazing to me how they can concede that the reason they're doing it is because they have to make money. Like, essentially, that's what the developer says. And, like, in a certain context, people just concede to that. They're like, well, and this is what they told the Historic Preservation Committee. We're going to have to stop for a year, 6 months, to have another study done to figure out how we could save those buildings. Mm-hmm. As you said, shovels are kind of already in the ground. They've been doing, like, some testing and drilling into this very space over here to see what's going on. If we stop the project, we are going to lose so much money.
Yeah.
And that's the calculus. That's literally what they tell them. We're going to lose so much money if we do this. And, you know, it just calls into question all of these values about, like, if money is the highest god, then there are debates you're going to just have to say, oh, well, shit, they are going to lose a bunch of money. We got to do it. And then you look down the street at the Carrack, who is living by the opposite paradigm, zero commission, totally donation based, both from the patrons and then the artists. The Red Dot is this week, coming up. Friday night, all donated art, all by Durham artists, all to support this model that says money is not the highest god, that there are other values. And I know Laura curates intentionally with that psychology of like, we're trying to deal with what's really happening in the world. I mean, they hosted the public meeting, one of the public meetings on this building where the developer came and talked.
They were showing the architecture off.
Did you get to go to that?
No,
I didn't get to go to that
meeting either.
I went to the Duke Realty Club meeting about it, and it was...
Oh, yeah, you talked about that.
It was eye-opening. I mean, the developer really did say, hey, it is about the money. We are in these projects to make money. He was talking about in the context of Blue Coffee. He was like, listen, I have to, and again, it goes to that categorical imperative. Is there really a categorical imperative that he has to make as much money as possible? I don't know, but the capitalists certainly seem to imply that there is. So he has to charge triple the rent for where Blue Coffee is, because that's what the market will bear. That's what he can get. So in that context, he says, I'm sorry, if you care about these places, you have to do something legislatively or with the city or collectively, because as the developer, it's not my problem or priority to preserve what already exists. It's my priority to make money.
We talked about this a couple weeks ago. That's an old mentality that cities and counties are in, which is that in order to get any development going on, we have to bend over backwards. We have to give inducements. We have to tempt. Now, this is a place where developers want to do stuff. The city, the municipalities have the advantage because this is a desirable place.
Right.
So why doesn't the city go to them and say, wow, you'd lose money on all that? We'd be happy to finance that. Let's go over and have a meeting at Self-Help. Let's figure that out. Why doesn't the city say this could be an opportunity for us? We want to preserve our stuff. We've got a developer who wants to develop here and start a business here because he thinks that he can, make money in the long term with the development. Why can't we benefit as well? It's this same mentality from the dead downtown 90s, which is that if anybody wants to put anything here, we're going to do whatever we can to get them to do that. We're not living in that time anymore. We're living in a time when Durham's on magazine covers and on newspapers as a wonderful place to live.
And the
this
New York
is a
Times
place
all
where
over.
developers should be
Absolutely
clawing over each other's backs to stick their damn building here.
Absolutely. And I think what people are really frustrated about is kind of that directionality in some ways, that instead of like before the developer makes their decisions, us having input, it's ex post facto. Decision's been made, here's what's going to happen, citizenry.
Yeah.
I know I feel the same way about the Holland Street alley, where they're gonna preserve the historic character of an alley that was 40 feet wide and cobblestone with something that's like 5 feet wide, and if we kill the old trees, we'll definitely put in new ones. And after the fact, we got to hear about that. So I don't know, you want to walk around a little bit more, Josh?
Yeah, let's take a
side of the street, the old Mechanics and Farmers bank there. They preserve the historic character of that, at least the facade there. And it's a beautiful old building. For a while that was the largest black-owned bank in America when this was Black Wall Street in North Carolina. Mutual Life was the largest black-owned insurer. And you can see the North Carolina Institute of Minority Economic Development across the street, still doing some work.
Yes, we have photographs of Parish Street.
Right. Now if we could only...
this used to be part of it as well. This used to be Palace International. You say Palace International now on Broad Street.
That's right over
Joe
by
Van Gogh
Craven Allen Art Gallery.
Yeah, Craven Allen, Green Room.
Shout out to the Craven Allen right now. Here they have a really good exhibit up if you've got some time. They always are tough because there's no other Third Friday venues right near them. We're standing right by the Carrack and down the block from Pleiades, and in Center City there's plenty of art, but it's hard for Craven Allen because they're not next to a lot of other things. I hear they have a really great exhibit right now. But yeah, the Palace International, I was in a Dirty Durham meeting, which they only hold their meetings a block or two from here as well, over on the other side of Chapel Hill Street there. But this used to be the Palace International back in the day, and they were forced out of here or pushed out of here in sort of an eminent domain kind of way by the city as long as like 18, 20 years ago. Like I would say we were dating ourselves to the late 90s when we got here.
Yeah, 94.
Yeah, so you're even predate me, but that was out of here by then. And you had heard that it was a nightclub.
Well, yeah, and this is just the sheer rumor. It was
Yes,
this was a nightclub where there had been some disturbance and somebody had been shot and killed one night, which is one of those stories that you can point at any building and say somebody was shot and killed there. Oh my God!
Sounds like apocryphal black fear. I mean, with the time we're living in now, it's always point the finger at the scary dark-skinned person, right, and use that as an excuse.
Say, somebody had a gun and
right. So I don't have the
there was
full
a body in the street.
Right.
So who knows? I mean,
it's terrible.
It's
I
the
don't
type
have
of story
the,
that you don't bother to necessarily check up on.
Well, I don't know. I think in the long haul,
this was pre-internet. Now you're like, I'm googling that action to see what's there.
Really happened.
But it was the type of thing that casts a pall on a building, and there's never been anything here since I've been here.
Right, me either. But I did hear a story that the Palace International used to be here, and then it was kind of a cool jazz club, and lots of the Protean Durham scene. Is that how you say that word? I don't even know.
Protean, yeah.
Yeah. Durham scene for jazz. Like, I mean, everybody knows about the Armory and that all kinds of amazing people like Thelonious Monk and Dizzy Gillespie and people played there back in the day, and this is part of that Black Wall Street, I think.
Oh, sure.
On into the
CCB Plaza used to be a performance hall. That plaza is the footprint of a performance hall in the past.
Right, and a source just told me last week that there was a point at one time where the green wall is and the field out in front of that was supposed to be a Thelonious Monk memorial, that there was going to be a statue, and you reminded me off camera that Monk's a North Carolina native.
Yeah, I was born in Rocky Mount, North Carolina, moved to New York when he was 6.
Makes perfect sense. So this may have actually been a jazz club at one point, and from what I hear, that they were told by the city 20 years ago it was urgent that they get out of here. I seem to remember the story rather, now that I think about it, than being connected with someone being shot, that there was a fire.
Okay.
And rather than let them rebuild after the fire, it was deemed that the whole thing was structurally unsound. And again, you wonder how it is easy for certain people with less power to be forced out of places and certain people with more power to make what they want to have happen. I mean, these facades, these ones are going away. I mean, you could probably look at Open Durham and see what they once looked like, but these ones are definitely going away. And the ones on the other side of the street, I guess we'll walk around there and try and show people.
Yeah, over on Main Street.
Yeah. So this could have been the other side of the Palace International. Those of you who are fact-checking us, feel free to hit opendurham.org and tell us what it actually was and what's the long-term historical story. If you know it, we'd love to hear it by all means. We'd like to see you tweet at us at the Clarion Content, or Chris and I each have our own Twitter handles, or comment after Josh posts this, and he's a big social media guy too. Yours is just at Josh Hart, Josh,
Yep.
HARDT, and Chris's is at Chris Vitiello.
Yeah, I think that's it.
VITIELLO.
We should know these things. Yeah, you got it.
And mine is at Jake and the Dirty D, as I feel compelled to stay away from truly being my own name on social media. Can't find me on Facebook. But yeah, so the story here of these facades is that they are going away. Josh was just shooting the Historic Preservation Committee sign over by the cool slap-up flower over there, the neat graffiti. Apparently, the original agreement was to try and save these facades, and now the Historic Preservation Committee has agreed that it would cost too much money and they'd have to shut down the street for too long, and the builder is allowed to destroy the existing facades here and do their best to recreate them.
Yeah. I mean, you can just imagine how it's going to change the nature of the street. Are they really going to recreate these things? These are going to be recreated in brand new, spanking,
right. I mean, no matter
lovely
what,
materials.
It's going to be Disneyfied. You know,
Yeah.
and I think that's what really
It's going to be a bit
pisses
of a...
me off or makes me uncomfortable is that's the subculture, or the psyche, excuse me, of America. This thing that, like, well, if we can't preserve the real thing, at least we can make an Epcot center like simulation of it, and the simulacrum will be fine. You know,
Yeah.
go to the mall and look at the faux historical,
Little theme park.
preservation. Yeah, and like if we keep preserving everything by theme park, it just gets super Orwellian to me, because the way that the truth can be twisted when you, rather than keep the real, count on people to like build a simulation of the real, is just hyperbolic.
Well,
It's
especially
ugly.
when you turn around and look across the street and you see,
gorgeous
you know,
buildings, right?
And there's a lot of redevelopment that's happened on the first
Right.
floor over the last 15 years, but you look at the upper floors.
Yeah,
and
the
you really
Crest
get to
building,
see
gorgeous,
stuff,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Revolution and the building, what's it called that Rodney lives in right up there?
You know,
above
I don't
Revolution?
know.
Yeah, he's going to kill me for not remembering the name
Yeah.
of it.
Well, I've always liked this green thing here. I mean,
You know, Cat Howard lived on the third floor of that
Oh, I
for
didn't
a
know.
while.
God, that
Yeah,
sounds
some
cool.
Durham secrets. Oh, it was
I love that.
unbelievable. One big studio across the top floor of that. Back of it looks out onto the
you
railroad
know,
tracks.
I do remember that. I remember when she was in there.
Yeah, that was a great spot. And the Durham
God, I
storefront
forgot about
project,
that.
that was one of the real genesis of the Durham storefront project, which was, of course, a great project to do public art around here.
Yeah, sure.
Was Catherine Howard and being in that building and,
And
getting all
looking
these
at
people,
all these empty storefronts.
right, and getting everybody to agree to put things into the storefronts,
Yeah.
which, you know, is part of what made downtown viable and part of what made people want to come to downtown. Storefront
Yeah, that's
project
that
was
first wave
very early.
of you know, people coming in, seeing nothing, and envisioning something or anything in that space.
Right,
you know?
and seeing
Yeah.
what something could look like and how beautiful it could be downtown. And so, yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's a tragedy or progress, but this is not going to look like this, you know? And it's probably somewhere in between. I guess nothing's quite as black and white as a tragedy or progress. I mean, right down the block, you know, we were looking at that building,
Oh, man,
the
you
bank
can just see
building,
it.
and, you know, the church in Maine beyond that, which is, I guess, a Center Studio architecture project.
Well, all the framework. That we
Yeah,
put
the
down
framework
there.
in the
Yeah,
distance,
before
yeah. And the bank building in the foreground just past the press, we were talking about how that has that stained glass ceiling inside of it. Again, in my recollection from the late 90s, this was never open as a bank. You don't recall it open as a bank, right?
You know, it could have been, but that's not. I don't have it in my memory.
Me either. But what I do
Across from
know
the
is that
Masonic
there's
Temple.
supposed to be a stained glass ceiling in here, so we thought we'd try and go in and get a
Yeah,
look.
let's try
We're
to break
across
in.
the way from Chicken Bone Park, where we know we're dealing with one of the very few open spaces left in downtown.
Let's see if we can sneak in. Oh, maybe not.
Uh-oh, let's go around the corner, Josh. What do we got here? I know the Crest building, of course, we've always talked about as an old treasure down here.
Is
But
there a
this
side
building they
entrance?
just put in? Yeah. This building they just put in all these restored windows. I mean, look at the work up there. It's really nice. And I don't know, Chris, you know anything about Bar Vergely? You know, we love the ask for forgiveness, not for permission, charge through the door methodology, and we got to see some stuff there for you. So maybe we'll just, if we're not in too loud a spot for you, Josh, talk about what's coming up in the upcoming week. I know we already dropped mention on the Carrick's Red Dot show. that's going to happen. All art donated by local Durham artists, all affordable prices, $25, $50, and $75.
Yeah, it's true.
And I guess, you know, I heard Liberty Arts, we mentioned, is going to start doing pours again. Check out the Liberty Arts website.
Over at the Foundry. That's really exciting.
Yeah,
another
fantastic.
Yeah,
and the dance stuff is still, there's plenty of that.
There are a couple DIDA shows on the Durham Independent Dance Artist season coming up. They're both at the Carrick, so unconventional spaces. This coming weekend, what is that, the 12th, 13th, Justin Torno's company is doing a piece called The Waits. And then the following weekend, Tommy Noonan is doing a piece called Brother Brother. It's a duet. They're both going to be great. I got to see Justin's company rehearsing in there. They're arranging the seats in an X, so you're sitting.
Oh, I heard
the
you
audience
get to
is
sit.
sitting straight across the performance space, and dancers are moving.
I was
between
talking
the
to
seats.
Jessica
It's going to be
Blakely
really
about
exciting.
that. Her sister
And
Amy's in it. That sounds
risky.
so cool.
Yeah,
Sit amongst the dance.
It's hard to know how it's going to work out, but it's exciting to think that we'll get to check it out.
Right on the playing field. Well, thanks a lot. It's been great, Josh. I really appreciate you putting up with us traipsing around all these different places in the tricky weather conditions and encouraging us to just roll ahead and go where we want to go. I guess you know, there's a lot going on in Durham, and again, I would encourage you, if you're interested in what we're talking about, to reach out to Chris, myself, Josh, the Clarion content. We want your opinion. I think the best way to get the best outcomes for all of us is the most voices.
Absolutely. Otherwise, somebody's going to speak for you.